What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Ricky and I am the owner and creator here at Marley May Customs. Today I'm going to show you how to do this beach split design. I originally did this design on a 20-ounce skinny for my mother-in-law and was asked to do these on some curved tumblers. So it's nothing that you haven't seen before, but I thought it would be fun to show you how I did this design on a different style tumbler. Hopefully you learned something, and if you do, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss our next video next Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every product that I use in this video will be linked in the description box down below. If you want to purchase a tumbler just like this one, you can find it in my Etsy shop, which is linked down below, as well as my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and everything like that. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So as always, we are starting out with a fully prepped and sanded cup. This one is the 20-ounce curve from Craft Haven, and we are going to tape it off so we can begin to paint. We are going to be doing a split cut for this, so what I like to do to make sure I get a perfect split is to tip this cup upside down and put it on a piece of paper. And then I like to trace around that and cut out that circle. And then I'm going to fold it in half and mark where the crease is on both sides of the cup. This is going to give us a perfect split down the middle of the cup. Once you get your lines marked, you are ready to tape. And once you get to the second piece of tape, you are going to put this kind of so it looks offset from the other piece of tape. This part right here always confuses me because I feel like it needs to be on one side of the line when it really needs to be on the other. I know I'm not explaining this well at all, but you'll know it's right when you have a big section and then your section on the other side is smaller. Hopefully that makes sense. I tried to show you here in the video, but what I like to do at that point is just stick a piece of tape on that smaller side because we don't want to get confused and paint that side. We want to paint the bigger side so we get the perfect split. I took it outside and spray painted it with Rustoluem Navy. I really didn't have to do this because you'll see later when I go to glitter, I ended up just going over this navy with acrylic paint anyway. Once your spray paint is fully dry, you're going to want to tape it off again. Really make sure your spray paint is dry so this tape does not pull it off. But you're going to want to tape it off and then you can go into the white glittered section. So for the adhesive and the base on this, I use CCDIY's Prime Time. I have mine in a condiment bottle because it makes my life so much easier. It makes it so much easier to apply. And I always like to do 2 coats of the Prime Time, especially when I'm using a white glitter. So I'll do the first coat and then I'll let that completely dry. If I'm short on time, I will go over it a couple of times with my heat gun to speed up the process, and then I will go directly into my second coat. Once I put the second coat on, I'll go in with the glitter while that second coat is still wet. And this glitter right here is Proposal from Glitter Dip Sips. I have a coupon code with them. You can find it down in the description box, and it is Marley May 10. It'll save you 10% off your whole order. She is my good friend, Holly. You can find her on Instagram as well. I absolutely love her, and I love her glitters. She's very affordable, and they are very, very high quality glitters. I highly recommend them. Once you are done applying your glitter, you can go ahead and remove your tape. I like to do this while it's still wet. You don't really want the Prime Time to dry with the paint on there because you might risk pulling up the glitter later. So just take it off while it's wet and you can avoid any mess ups that might happen if the paint were to dry with the tape on there. You're going to want to let your Prime Time completely dry, and I usually like to let it completely dry for at least a couple hours. I let this one dry overnight. Just because it kind of takes a little bit longer to dry when it's underneath glitter. So make sure that's fully dry, and then you can go in with another layer of whatever sealant you use. Again, I used Rustoluem 2x gloss. I was going to use the epoxy method to apply my glitter, but once I actually sat down and started glittering it, I realized it would be really hard to get really close to that split line without going over and making a big mess. So it was much easier to go in and get that paint up against that line than it would be to go with epoxy with my glove finger. You know what I mean? So I really didn't have to use the spray paint, but you know, it's whatever. I didn't think about it until I sat down. So we're just gonna use Dress Blues from POG and let that fully dry. Once that is fully dry, you are going to want to seal your glitter really well so you don't risk it moving over into the white glitter. So I just use Rustoluem 2x clear spray. You can also use Quick Coat from CCDIY, and you're going to want to let that dry really well as well. Once your cup is fully sealed, you're ready to go into your first coat of epoxy. I use 30 mils of CCDIY artist resin, and I let that dry for about 6 to 8 hours. My epoxy is taking a lot longer to dry because it's just now starting to get warm outside, so my basement is still very cold. But once that was dry enough, I went in with a flood coat, and I used 30 mils of CCDIY artist resin for that as well. And then I let that fully dry for about 12 hours. Once the cup was fully dry, I lightly sanded the surface of the cup and really focused on the top and bottom rims. You want to make sure it's very smooth before you put this water slide on, because the bumps and any pokey bits of glitter will show underneath your water slide. I always like to go in after I sand with another coat of Rustoluem 2x clear gloss. Alternatively, you could use another coat of epoxy, but the spray paint is much quicker and it works just as well. So this image I'm using for the water slides is a free wallpaper that I found on Google. I will have it linked down below. And I just printed it on Hiipoo clear water slide decal paper, and I sized them at 8x8 in Google Docs. There was a little bit of overhang, but that's okay because we're going to trim it off, and I'd much rather have way too much than too little. This was the first time I ever applied a water slide onto a curved tumbler, so I was kind of nervous, but it actually wasn't too bad. Water slide isn't as delicate as you might think as long as it is sealed properly. It's actually pretty resilient, and you can kind of stretch it and manipulate it to make it do what you want. So that's what you'll see me doing here. I just smoothed it out and stretched where I needed to stretch. I would stretch from one side, and then I would stretch from the bottom side, and really just manipulate it until it sits nice and flat and pretty. Once you're happy with how your water slide looks, you want to make sure to completely dry it really well with a paper towel, especially on the edges, because we're going to go in with a craft knife or a razor blade like me, because my husband has a ton of them, and we're just going to trim it off. You really want to make sure you dry those edges especially well, because if you don't, you're going to risk pulling up the water slide when it's wet. You can kind of see in a few places here where I didn't have it dried all the way and it started to pull up, so I had to go back in and smooth those down. But I think as long as you make sure your edges are really dry, you won't have a problem. If it does start to pull up or start to wrinkle, you can always go back in and smooth it down. You can wet your finger with some water and smooth it down. I trimmed off just a little bit of the one side where it was really overhanging a lot, and then I trimmed a little bit off the bottom as well where it was wrinkling from going over that rim. I let that water slide fully dry, and then I was ready to go in with my decals. This was a made-to-order order for 3 different cups, and they wanted specific quotes on these. I'm going to apologize in advance for the curse words if that is something you don't like, but like I said, these were some made-to-orders for some customers, and they are going on an all-inclusive girls trip. So I thought these were really fun and super cute for the occasion. After you get whatever decal you want on this, you are ready to move into your next layer of epoxy. I used 20 mils of CCDIY artist resin on this coat and let it spin for about 8 to 12 hours, or you could also let it spin overnight. Once your cup is dry, you are ready for the final decals on this, and I just cut some vinyl strips out of the glittery vinyl that I used. I will have the exact one linked down below. I cut these vinyl strips at 11 inches wide by 0.15 inches high. And I just placed those right along where the cup splits and cut off any excess. For the names, I used a font called Glow Honey. You can find it on Creative Fabrica. I will have it linked down below for you if you would like to buy it, or if you're a member, you can get it for free. And then I just created an offset in the app Phonto. Jessica Flynn from Flynn Sisters Boutique has a really good video on how to do that. That's where I learned it from. And I know there's also an offset option in Cricut Design Space, but I hate using Cricut Design Space on my computer. I much prefer doing it on my iPad, and I don't have the offset option on my iPad. So that's why I use Phonto, and then I can just transfer it over to Cricut and cut it out the same way. Once your vinyl strips and names are applied, you are ready for your final coats of epoxy. I went in with about 20 to 30 mils of CC DIY Artist Resin for each cup. I definitely did not use all of that, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. And you're just going to want to epoxy until smooth. Typically, I like to do at least 2 coats of epoxy over my vinyl decals. I don't know why. I just like the feeling of knowing that they are under 2 layers of epoxy and they are really nice and sealed in. Once your cups are fully cured, you are ready to use them or send them out the door. This is what they turned out like. I really think they are super cute, and like I said, really fun and super cute for the occasion of the all-inclusive trip. Thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you learned a little bit of something. I know it's nothing new, but I figured I would show you guys how I made this because it is a really cute design. I loved it when I made it for my mother-in-law, and I love it on these curved cups. I think they turned out so cute. I was so nervous about doing the water slide on them, but it wasn't bad at all, and it just goes to show that when you try new things, you might come up with something you really love. So I will see you guys in the next tutorial next Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.